Hi everyone, we're going to be decorating the Cinco de Mayo cookie kit today. I've got everything laid out, cookies, sprinkles, icing. I've got a napkin over here, my skewer, the brush that came in your kit. I also have a small extra plate that I'll show you what we need that for later. What you don't see is I have a fan over here, and you don't have to use a fan, but it will help in between steps that the cookie needs to dry for a little while. It'll help speed things up, but you obviously don't have to have one. I'll explain that when we get there. Remember, we're working with royal icing today. Royal icing takes 6 to 8 hours to fully dry, but it starts drying immediately. So some of our steps are going to be a little time sensitive because we want to finish the decoration before the icing begins to dry, which happens very quickly. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you how to open or cut open the piping bag first. So if you take your piping bag, if you see any kind of color separation, just go ahead and give it a little mix up with your fingers like this while it's still closed, obviously. And just mix that up until all the color looks the same. Okay, separation happens, but the icing is still good. Everything's fine. You just have to mix it up. Okay, so you'll notice on the bag there's a seam on the bag right here. And what I like to do is I like to follow that seam and then turn it on its side. And then we're gonna press down on the tip of the piping bag like this so it's nice and flat, okay? And then we're gonna grab our sharp scissors and we're gonna cut straight across. Now, you wanna start with a small hole in the end of the bag, and then you can always make it bigger if you feel like you need to. Okay, so push that straight down, it's nice and flat, and I'm gonna cut straight across just about that much, like that, okay? And then we're gonna find that seam again, turn it back over, and we're gonna push down on the end, and that's gonna open up the piping bag for us, right? So good to go. So the first thing we're gonna work with is our taco. Now we've got 4 designs that we're showing today. We've got a taco, a cactus wearing a sombrero, a donkey, and we've got a lime wedge. Now obviously these 2 are the same shapes, so you can make all tacos or all lime wedges, or think of something completely different. You could do a sun, you could do a bunch of different things, but I'm gonna show you how to do a taco and a lime wedge. So the first thing we're gonna do with our taco is we're gonna do some lettuce up here. And I've shown you, I've got this line right here on the taco for you. It's a guideline because that's where our shell's gonna start and this is where our fillings are. So we don't wanna go past this line too much, and if we do, we're gonna take our skewer and just scrape it off, just like that, okay? So for our lettuce, all we're gonna do is we're gonna pipe dots along the edge right here, and then we're gonna pull it down with our little brush that we've got, okay? So here we go. I'm gonna pipe my dots. My bag is straight up and down. I'm holding it at the back of the bag just like this, and I'm piping nice big dots fairly close to each other. They're not right on top of each other, but they're pretty close, okay? Just like that. All right. Then we're gonna take our brush. You can use any paintbrush. This is just what I included in your kit. It's nice and tiny. And you're gonna press down right in the middle of that dot, and you're gonna pull back. So push down and pull back. Push down and pull back. All the way through. Okay. If you see any spots that you wanna try again, make them a little bit wider, you can go back over them. But again, this is gonna start drying really fast, so you wanna do that quickly. Okay, I've gone a little bit over my guideline here, so I'm just gonna take my skewer and get rid of that. It's not a big deal. We can go over that guideline, but just to keep things simple, we'll keep it as clean as we can. Okay, so I'm gonna stick this in front of the fan for a second. If you don't have a fan, obviously you just need like 5 minutes of this drying by itself, okay? So while that's drying, we're going to flood the cactus part of our little cactus guy. Now he's super cute. He's wearing a sombrero. He's ready to party. And so you can see where the sombrero meets the cactus right here. So we're gonna flood from here down, and we're gonna make it green. Okay, so I've got my green, and remember we always pipe an outline, And piping is when we are pressing gently on the bag and we're dropping the icing like a rope, okay? We're not super close to the cookie the whole time. We're lifting up and we're dropping that icing along. You always want to make sure your piping bag is open and that the tip is nice and clean. If you start with a glob of icing on the end, it's not gonna be pretty. So I'm gonna start right here in this corner, and I'm gonna get really close to the cookie, and I'm gonna start applying gentle pressure. And once the icing hits the cookie, I'm gonna lift up and I'm gonna drop that icing like a rope. Now when I want to change directions, I'm gonna do what's called an anchor point. So I'm just gonna stop and push down and then keep going. So I'm gonna drop and touch the cookie and then keep going. All right. I'm gonna go all the way around the outside. I'm gonna stop and pick back up. Again, stop and then pick back up. Last time, stop and then go back. Okay, so now it's outlined. That was our piping. Now we flood. So we flood, we're filling in this area. And what we need to do is we need to push a lot harder on the piping bag, and we really want to stack that icing up. See how it's nice and fluffy and there's a lot of it? We need a lot of icing in order for it to settle, so don't be afraid of it. Okay, and I'm pushing really hard on the bag so it's going faster, which we kind of want to do because like I said, that icing starts to dry immediately. So we want to get this flooded in a pretty timely manner so that we can still work with it while it's wet. Okay, so it's totally filled in. I'm gonna take my skewer, we also call this a scribe tool, and I'm just gonna knock out those lines, just give them a little wiggle, okay, and make sure everything's level and settled nicely like that, okay. What you can also do, you can also stick the cookie with your skewer and give it a little shake. That helps settle things out too. Okay. I'm gonna use my sprinkles over here. I've got these black pearls. I'm gonna give them a couple eyeballs. One here. And you wanna push those down so that you make sure that they are in the icing so that they will, when the icing dries, they're not going anywhere. Okay, and I also have these white sprinkles that I'm gonna use as the cactus spikes, just as a little effect. I'm gonna go around the cactus, but I'm gonna leave a little spot right here by where his mouth would be, because I'm gonna give him a mouth later. Okay, so I'm just gonna go down, sprinkle a couple on his arms like this. Okay. Okay, leaving that spot open right there by his mouth, just so I know when I come back I can do that. Okay, very cute. So I have a rogue sprinkle over here. I'm just gonna knock it back over. Any others that fell by the wayside, you can just kind of push over. All right, so we're gonna let him dry for just a little bit. I'm gonna put him in front of the fan. Again, just set him to the side for about 10 or 15 minutes and that'll be good. Okay, back to our taco. This taco needs some meat. Now, meat is brown. You notice I did not give you any brown, but you have red and green, which guess what? Make brown. So I'm gonna take a plate here. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm gonna give myself a little squirt of red, just like that. And I'm gonna add some green to it. And I'm gonna mix it up with my brush. And we should get some brown looking icing. If it's too red, add some more green. If it's too green, add some more red. You guys know how to mix colors. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. I like that. So what we're gonna do is we are going to basically take a big glob of this, just like that, and we are going to dab it onto our taco. Now we wanna follow that guideline that I've got there. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. You can go all the way to the top, and we are covering that seam of the lettuce, okay? So we're just gonna dab icing on here. And you want a nice thick amount, because we're gonna come back in just a minute and we're gonna rough this up with our scribe tool and make it look more textured like ground beef or carne asada, whatever. Okay? So don't be afraid by putting too much on there. Just give it a nice glob, I guess you would say. All right. So this guy is gonna go over here for now too, just for a minute. Let that icing start to harden and then we'll go and mess it up. Okay, now we've got our lime wedge. Our lime wedge is obviously just the same shape as a taco, a half moon. And we are going to pipe and flood it green and add some segments and seeds with the yellow. So again, we're gonna start in the corner. We're piping, so we're gonna press gently on the bag and lift up and drop that icing like a rope. You can see my rope broke, but that's okay. We're just gonna fix it. And then we're gonna come over here and do the same thing all the way down. Okay, now we're gonna fill it in. Pushing firmly on the bag, really stacking that icing up, making it nice and 3D and puffy. All right. Take our skewer. Make sure it's all settled, that there's no holes. Okay. And give it a little wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle. All right, nice and smooth. Also, if you see any air bubbles, you can always pop that with your skewer as well. Okay, so while this icing is still wet, we are going to outline it with yellow, make some sections, and then make some seeds as well, okay? So I'm going to start in the corner, and just like I did when I was piping the outline, I'm gonna pipe yellow around the outside, but I'm gonna pipe it right on top of the green. And because our green is still wet, the yellow should sink in and become flush with the green. All right, excellent. So we're gonna divide it now. We're gonna pipe a line halfway, and then we're gonna divide each of those halves into half again. So we'll have 4 segments, okay? So I'm just gonna start here at the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you're just guessing about where halfway is. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing over here. Awesome. So now we're gonna put a seed in each of these segments. So I'm gonna draw a big polka dot in each one. Just like this. Okay. And with our skewer tool, we are going to we're gonna stick it right in the middle of that dot and pull through. Okay, same thing, clean it off in between each one, stick it right in the middle of the dot and pull through. Now you don't want to touch all the way down to the cookie, you want to stay in the icing. So stick down and pull through. You can see our icing is already starting to dry. You can see those spots are staying put. Right there, and pull through. You can already see a crust just starting to form, is what I meant to say, on our icing. So if you have any pickup points that are not going away, just kind of knock them down with your skewer tool. And there we go. There is your lime wedge. Super cute, right? Excellent job. Okay, the lime is done. That's all we got for the lime. So I'm gonna bring my taco back over here. He's been drying. And we're gonna take our skewer, and all we're gonna do, see how that top layer's been drying? We're gonna take it and we're going to just rough it up a little bit so it looks more like something resembling meat. Okay? Fun. Just like that. Okay. Again, we're gonna let him dry and then we'll come back and finish the taco up with some details. I'm gonna bring my cactus back over. He has been drying a little bit. We're gonna do his sombrero. So his sombrero is gonna be yellow. And we're gonna pipe an outline and fill the entire thing in, and then we'll come back later and do some line details. So I'm gonna start right here in the corner, and I'm gonna pipe the line. I'm gonna go right along the top of the cactus right there. And over. I'm gonna come back over here I like to go right to left or left to right as much as possible. So sometimes I'll pick up and start in the other corner. So now I'm just gonna flood that in. Pushing nice and firmly on the bag. We wanna fill that in, make it look really nice and fluffy and 3D. If you don't have enough icing in there in your flood, that's when you're gonna see these like dips and unevenness, because if there's not enough icing, it's not going to settle out. It's just gonna like stay where it's at and it's not gonna be smooth. Okay, give a little stick and a wiggle. Awesome, looking cute. I'm gonna stick him in front of the fan again, just for like 5 minutes or so. But if you don't have a fan, remember, just 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 on that hat, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, this is our piñata, our donkey piñata. And now this is a piñata. Go crazy. It's a crazy kind of thing. You can, you know, do whatever you want with this. I did one where I just flooded it and did sprinkles. That's what that looks like, and he looks great. He looks very festive, okay? I'm going to show you how to do a technique that will look like the flaps on the tissue paper on an actual piñata, okay? So we're gonna flood him in red, and then we're gonna do some horizontal lines, and then we're gonna drag our scribe tool through, okay? So I'm grabbing my red. Whenever you pick up your bag, you always wanna make sure the tip is open and that it's clean, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and outline our donkey piñata, our burro, right? I did not take Spanish in high school, I took French, but you know, you pick up some things. All right. Pipe our outline there. And then we'll go ahead and flood in. Remember, you're pushing hard on the bag. Get all that icing up. I like to flood, when I flood, I try and be kind of systematic about it. So I like to go around the outside first, make sure it's touching all the borders. And then I like to keep going inward in this like spiral motion. You don't have to do that, but I feel like it keeps things pretty even and about the same level. And then I have little work to do to move it around. So we'll make sure all those spots are filled in, all those lines are gone. Make sure that's going up there. Okay, give it a little wiggle. Okay, this is another technique where we need to move kind of quickly. So I'm gonna use my red and green, and I'm gonna give him some horizontal lines. I just noticed that's a little uneven. It's hard to see with the camera right over my head. Okay, so I'm gonna do some horizontal lines straight across. I'm gonna start up here. And these don't have to be perfect because we're gonna go ahead and mess them up in just a minute. So don't be super sad. If your line breaks, that's okay, just fill it in. Okay, and we want to move quickly because we want to do this while the icing is still wet so that it all goes together in the end. Now my yellow lines. Okay, so now with our scribe tool, we're gonna pull straight through these lines, going from bottom to top. We are only going bottom to top on this. We're not gonna alternate because we want the look of those flaps. And we're gonna clean our icing, our skewer in between each pass. Okay, so I'm gonna start here, I'm gonna go straight up. Start down here. And we don't wanna touch the cookie, we're just trying to go through the icing only. All right. I'm cleaning off the skewer in between each pass. Okay. Just like this. Keep going, and we'll do one more. right, so as you can see, our icing's already starting to dry over here. That's why it looks a little rough on this end, but that's okay. Just take your scribe tool, knock it out, knock out those pickup points. Okay, and so with that pattern, it looks like the flaps on the tissue paper on a piñata, right? Pretty cool. I can't let a donkey piñata go on without sprinkles, so I'm gonna put some sprinkles on him. So I'm just gonna put some on his back here, back of his head, and just down his back a little bit, because I can't leave well enough alone, and I love sprinkles. Okay, it just looks so festive. Okay, if you have any rogue sprinkles that fell off or are on the side, you can just tap them over like this. Make sure everything's in place so that when the icing fully dries, those sprinkles are not going anywhere. Okay. I might put a couple more sprinkles on his hooves. Put some sprinkles down here too. All right, again, just tap those in, make sure they're not going anywhere. Once they're stuck in the icing and the icing dries, they are good to go. All right, and there is our piñata. Pretty cute. We've got two different versions, one just sprinkles and one with the tissue paper effect technique. All right, so those guys are finished. Okay, let's bring our taco back over here. So we've got our taco. He's got, you can see our meat, it's still, if you want to add more texture, it's still not completely dry, but each time we let it over there, it crusts up a little more. So this could also be a bean taco. It kind of looks like refried beans too. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pipe and fill in our shell. And what we're going to do is we're going to just follow that guideline. So if you can still see that guideline, if you want to clean it up a little bit, you're more than welcome to. You can take your scribe tool and just drag it along that line and clean it up. If you went over it, it's not a big deal. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start in the corner here, and I'm going to pipe straight across to the other corner and come up right to where the lettuce and the meat are, and then I'm going to start flooding. Okay. Okay. It's nice and filled in. Take my skewer, pull it out to the edges. Okay. Give it a little shake. Make sure everything's settled and clean. Excellent. Awesome. Okay, so our taco needs some toppings. So we're gonna take our red, and our red is gonna act as tomatoes. So we're just gonna drop some dots of red, or they could be, you know, some type of pepper or chili, right? There's red chilies, I think. Okay, so we'll call them tomatoes for now. And then we'll take our yellow and we'll do some squiggles of cheese. So this is just like when we're piping. Okay, we're going to apply gentle pressure and we're just gonna kind of squiggle it around. Make it look like shredded cheese. Just like that. Go in a few different directions. Okay. Awesome. That is our taco. Pretty cool. All right, taco is finished. Now we've got our Cactus Sombrero over here, and we're just gonna add some lines to the sombrero to give it some detail. I'm gonna use red. Now, I've had it in front of the fan or it's been sitting out onto the side. The hat part is not completely dry by any means, but there is a crest over it, so we can add some details on top. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do kind of a rainbow shape over the top part of the sombrero. Now I'm gonna start in the middle of the hat. I'm not gonna start here because I want to make it look like that section is in the middle of the hat, which it normally is, obviously, on a three-dimensional hat. So I'm gonna start right here. I'm gonna pipe, so that means I'm dropping my rope. I'm gonna follow the top of the sombrero and stop right there, okay? Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start in this corner and I'm gonna make a full circle around the rim of the hat. And while I pass through, I'm gonna cover up those 2 points on that other shape there, okay? So here I go, I'm gonna pipe. Once I get to this corner, I'm gonna make a sharp U-turn, basically, and I'm gonna hit those dots right there and come back, right? And then we'll do the same thing down here. Just pipe a line along the bottom of the sombrero, like that. Awesome. So, you know, it looks like his hat's a little more three-dimensional. Okay. Now we can decorate the brim here. We can add some zigzags. We can add some dots. I think I'm just gonna do a zigzag. So I'm gonna lay down some zigzag lines. Just like that. Okay. Maybe we'll add some dots too, who knows? Go crazy. So I'll add a dot in between each one. Now I'm just barely pushing on this piping bag, okay? Just like that. Okay, don't think I forgot about his smile. He needs a little smile, so I'm gonna use some yellow and I'm gonna pipe just a little side smile right here. You could use green, you could use red, you can use whatever you'd like. I used yellow, okay? So that is our Cinco de Mayo fiesta set. We've got piñatas, lime wedges, our cactus, and our taco. All super fun. I hope you guys enjoyed and that you have fun with this. Remember, they have to sit out for 6 to 8 hours to fully dry or overnight. Uncovered, leave them out in the open. They will be fine, I promise. And then you can package them up, give them away, or just eat them yourself. Anyways, thank you for following along and have fun.